Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 239. So this one was mostly a setup episode, kind of putting pieces into position. It did, I think, at least sort of had a scene with nearly all aspects of the plot, and created, I suppose, a little bit of a pathway towards where the arc is going and the conflict between the Fanato and the Mist and our Leaf Village Shinobi being involved in that. There's bits and pieces in this episode that I think add to the arc very nicely, in that I actually really like the introduction of Ikada and some of the sort of mysteries that surround him, because clearly the thing with him is that based on like his hair color, his hairstyle, his eyes, I'm guessing he's also Amari's son, and it links into the whole idea of Amari was talking about, I think his son was mentioning the idea, things are just tools, like all that matters is that we win. Was Ikada, one of these sort of tools who maybe got discarded when he was younger because he wasn't useful to the clan or something like that. There's a story there that I find quite interesting, because they're now teaming Boruto up with Ikada, and they're doing what they've done in arcs before, like in Naruto and now in Boruto. This is going to, I guess, be a key character here. They also potentially had us head more into the direction of maybe learning what the especially the main family, what their like Amari and so on, what their special ability is, because they seem to heavily imply, based on the first episode and the fact that Boruto really believes Ikada was the one who saved them at the start, that I'm guessing they have some ability to make parts of their body into sort of like a fishman type thing from One Piece. Which would be a pretty cool thing if there's a cool design for, like, that's why Amari is so strong. Like, I guess he has like good jutsu, water style, but he can effectively turn himself into a fishman and be undefeatable in most conditions. Because we're waiting for that ultimately to get to a lot of those fights, and if they all have sort of that family has abilities like that, that could actually be quite cool, and it could help in terms of the world building sense in Naruto Boruto to explain stuff like I don't think they ever gave a reason for why Kisame was basically a shark man. I don't think they ever actually came out and said that they're different in some way because of some like ability or Keika Genkai or stuff like that. We haven't really introduced other species apart from Otsutsuki, and I doubt they're going to go down the alien road with this. So it's probably just more of a again, an explanation would be nice, especially if it did link into some of the characters who are like Kisame and how they look. But beyond that, like there was some cool stuff. Like the ship is stranded, so they meet Ikada and the shipbuilder guy, the boss. And they immediately offer to help repair the ship. The main dynamic comes up is that they can repair everything except they're missing one part. Ikada is in charge of the parts. He didn't get the stock right, so he has to go get this part. Boruto's going with him for safety because the Fanato are kind of patrolling the waters, so a fight might break out. And so they're kind of placed together. We get this idea that Ikada has this dream to one day build a big ship and kind of, in a way, like explore the world. So he's already built this small, fast ship that he's worried doesn't work, but seems to be working well so far and is pretty quick. So he kind of has this dream that Boruto is kind of latching onto a bit, which is, I think, pretty good. Other than that, like, you have some interesting points, like, say, Kawaki's going off to sort of investigate the harbor. Mitsuki oddly decides to kind of follow him. And literally it is that he follows him. They're not like as such, paired together, because Mitsuki is like just watching him from behind and doing his usual Mitsuki thing of sort of like no selling the idea that, yeah, I'm following you to see what's going on here. So maybe we'll get more in their dynamic in the coming episodes. Sarada's gone with Kagura and the three swordsmen. So that's kind of interesting. They call to find out about what's happening with like Chojuro, and I guess he's going to the battlefront here. So again, they are building towards the end of this, and that I think Chojuro's sort of needed to come back into play. But what's interesting is he doesn't have the sword. Kagura has the sword. So I don't know if they're going to make this arc really significant and maybe go down some sort of a road where if he barely if Chojuro, and with a lot of people, barely defeated Emery before, like, it creates them as a threat that maybe Chojuro without the sword might go down, and leave that opening for, you know, we need a new Kage here, and that's sort of the position for Kagura. Now, I don't think he's probably ready to immediately be incorporated in as like the Kage or anything like that, but it would be interesting to have a situation happen like that. I don't know if they'll go for that. We'll see the exact scope of like how big a battle, how big of a threat they actually are when we get around to it. I suppose, speaking of which, we do get some time with the Fanata. They're all back together. They're eating. I can't remember if we'd met like Emery's daughter before. She might have been in the background, but or I'm forgetting her appearance in other episodes. But at least it's creating a bigger sort of group here. So we have the sort of older son, we have the daughter, and then Tenma is obviously said to be a son. But based on like the appearance, I'm guessing it's some sort of adoption thing, because he seems to have a little bit of a different dynamic within the family than the other ones, and that he seems always really eager to prove himself, whereas the other two seem very confident just in their place, and just with regards to how they act and stuff like that, he does seem a little bit different, in that he's very worried about the loss of the mobile fortress, whereas the other ones are just like, yeah, it was just a tool, it accomplished what it needed to, we'll move on, whereas he's kind of a bit more upset about it. But he's not getting like punished for it kind of being lost under his command or anything like that. So there's that to consider as well. So there's definitely a story here of the idea that it seems like Ikada is actually Emery's son, but he's been like replaced by Tenma. And again, what happened? What led Ikada to coming out here? How's he going to be reintroduced into things, and what's the dynamics of the family going to be when they kind of meet again? Because he's obviously been introduced for a reason, and it's because of a lot of this stuff. So overall, like, again, it's going to be a short review here, but it's just one of those episodes where, look, it's not the greatest episode, but it's also not bad. It's enjoyable to a point, but I wouldn't say it's boring. It's just these bigger arcs, especially the ones where they're not the manga arcs, at times do just tend to have these sort of episodes that play their roles in terms of being the setup episode and don't have all that much to it. But I think this episode deserves a little bit of praise, a little bit of impact, for the introduction of Ikada, who's kind of introduced a dynamic that, to me, always tends to work in Boruto, which is the kind of Boruto team up with another character around his age, and, you know, the two kind of rub off a little bit on each other. So I'm actually much more interested in the arc now because of Ikada and the kind of mystery dynamics that presents, in terms of when will they reveal what the whole, you know, webbed hands thing is, and how that maybe connects into the family, and then just the family reveal full stop. Anything else? Like, again, I still want more on the Fanato. Like, I don't know if they'll be able to create this as like a really, really monumental emotional arc, but they could definitely get there, because I think there's definitely still more that we need to do with Kagura to set him up a bit more. There's more that you need to do, I think, with the three swordsmen, in terms of establishing, again, why they're on this path to redemption, why they didn't go with their leader when he broke out, and that sort of stuff. So it seems like they're maybe setting it up for the finale, but there's probably still maybe 10 episodes still to go, because the next episode looks like it's mostly, again, going to be more setup, maybe with a little bit more reveals, but we're not quite at the point where we're in the middle of action just yet. So overall, you know, solid episode. I think that's the way to say it. Not being too, you know, over the top, hyperbolic about, you know, it was really boring or anything like that, but it also wasn't particularly amazing either. It's just, you know, that solid middle of the road episode. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.